Hello Hannah, my name is Dionne. I'm here filming for the Disabled People's Channel. Would you like to tell me a bit about yourself, please?
I'm from London and I'm here to talk about a few of the things that
You're here to talk about your conditions. What is hydrocephalus?
So, very early on in my life, I had water surrounding my brain in my head, and I had to have shunts fitted to drain that fluid.
How old was you when you was diagnosed with a hydrocephalus?
I was 16 hours old.
And what did they manage to do for you? What did the hospital do?
They fitted me with 2 ventricular peritoneal shunts, which were then used to drain the fluid into my stomach.
Okay, so what is a shunt?
A shunt is a drain that's placed into your head.
So it goes from your head into your stomach, so it travels,
Yeah.
it's placed inside the body?
Yeah.
Or outside, but from the head to the stomach?
Yeah, it can also be drained to your heart, but you're more likely to have complications if they do that, as your stomach is more well adapted to knowing how to
Absorb.
To absorb the fluid and
How long do they expect that to last, that shunt? I mean, at a very early age as well, obviously you're growing rapidly, so how long was it fitted often?
So everyone's different, so they can't place a specific time frame on it, but they put 2 meters of tubing inside me so that when I carried on growing, it would grow with me.
Wow, that's quite a long length. The condition hydrocephalus, you had it since birth, but is it a condition that you can get later on in life?
So it can be developed at any stage. It's not necessarily specifically developed as a child.
Okay. Yeah. So in a child or an adult, how else can they develop this condition?
So it can be as a result of a brain tumour or a head injury, and occasionally it can be through genetics, but that's quite rare in comparison to the other 2 scenarios.
I understand as well that people over the age of 60 can actually develop this, and it can be quite confused with dementia.
Yeah.
So it's ideally important to have the diagnosis made correctly.
Yeah.
The condition itself, does it cause any other complications? What other symptoms were there?
So when I was 7, I developed precocious puberty, which meant that I had to have injections to stunt my growth.
Was that to stop periods at all?
So that was to stop to stop my periods and to stop me from growing, as it was a lot earlier on than it would be.
So it's
normally.
to stop, say, breast development.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that would have been a very early age.
Yeah.
When did they stop those injections? When was you able to no longer have the injections and be able to go into your puberty naturally?
They stopped them when I was 11. And I was also diagnosed with hypothyroidism.
Did it cause any difficulties on your eyes or mental health at all?
So it did have quite a big impact on my eyesight. And I had several operations to try to correct my squint.
What effect did it have on your family?
It did mean that my sister had to be quite a bit more mature a lot earlier on than she might otherwise have been, because my parents were busier looking after me.
Is your sister older or younger?
My sister's younger than me.
So she had to mature to help look after you. How did it affect your schooling?
It affected my cognitive development, so it meant that I've also found things like fine motor skills and maths and sensory processing quite challenging.
Did you go to a mainstream school at all?
Yep, for the
That was good. So
whole duration of full-time education.
That's good. So they had to adapt to your needs.
Yeah.
Was you able to make friends easily? Were they understanding to your condition?
So I found making friends at school quite hard. And this was partly to do with the fact that people in my class saw me as being different, and partly because I found that the necessary developmental stages that you go through as a young child to enable you to make friends happen later on for me than it did for other people.
With your shunt surgery, did you have any complications after your surgery? And how many shunts have you had in your life so far?
So I've had 2 revisions, and this was because I had malfunctions which meant that they stopped working properly.
Okay. So was there blockages in them?
So I had one blockage with my first set of shunts, and my other set ended up breaking quite early on.
Okay. What support do you have?
So I don't receive any support at the moment, but before starting school I received support from an occupational therapist to help me to improve my balance, and then at school I received support from various teaching assistants.
But your parents would have had support given to them as well? Any organisations that would have helped them?
There weren't any that were specifically to help them with my hydrocephalus or my epilepsy,
Okay.
but they did receive support with me at home.
Is that with equipment, special equipment to be brought into the house, or adaptations at all?
So I had some special equipment to help with
What would that be?
different tasks, like when I was trying to improve my short sightedness, it helped that I was provided with various brightly coloured toys to identify.
Okay. What other complications or conditions did your hydrocephalus cause that you're aware of?
So, not my hydrocephalus specifically, but the fact that I have VP shunts means that I can't regulate my body temperature properly.
You mentioned you've got hypothyroidism. Is that caused by your hydrocephalus as well?
So, yeah, that's also secondary to it.
And were you hyper at any? Did you have hypothyroidism at any time?
I didn't.
So you went straight to hypothyroidism, and are you on any medication for that?
So I take levothyroxine to ensure that I have enough.
Yeah, I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, which was treated with radioactive iodine, and that failed. So it was treated again in 2001 with radioactive iodine and lithium, and that worked. And its symptoms of that were you don't like the hot weather, you cannot put on weight, and as my consultant at the hospital tried to say to me that I was actually bouncing off the ceilings, was his how he seen me, meaning it was really high, that it took its toll on my body. But then after being treated, again, I'm now hypothyroid, and like yourself as well, then I take the levothyroxine. You also mentioned you have eye problems. What would that be?
So, because of my hydrocephalus, I have a squint, which means that my eyes aren't able to follow each other when I'm looking at things, and I can't focus on one specific object at a time.
Do you get double vision?
I get double vision if I'm tired,
Okay.
but most of the time not.
So I would take it you were born with your eye condition, or did it develop later on?
I was born with it.
You was born with it, okay. Have you had any surgeries on your eyes?
So I had several between 1999 and 2001 to correct my squint, none of which were successful.
Okay. Are you working?
Yes.
Does it affect your working life?
It still affects my eyesight, which has an impact on some things that I do, but generally not as much.
Can I ask what you do? You don't have to say where you work, but can I ask you what your job is, please?
I'm a groom.
Sorry?
I'm a groom.
A groomer?
Yeah.
Dog groomer?
No, horses.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. So you're working with animals?
Yeah.
Very good. What a wonderful animal to work with as well. Very calming.
Yeah.
What advice could you give to a parent that has just had their child diagnosed with this condition? Or what advice could you even give a child that has been given a diagnosis?
So I would say to try to meet other people with the same diagnosis, because when you're coming to terms with it on your own, it can be a very lonely process.
We're in the age of lots of, the internet and finding out lots of advice on there. Do you belong to a support group at all?
Not at the moment.
But there is some groups out there.
Groups that I could be part of.
Because I understand there's one called Shine.
Yes.
Yes, they have, that's a support group for the hydrocephalus.
Yeah.
Hannah, on behalf of the Disabled People's Channel, we'd like to thank you for coming along today and sharing your experiences and your conditions and giving us lots of information we were very unaware of. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.